Hi, I'm Sue, and today I'm going to chat with you about position and latch. So first off, we'll talk about latching babies, so how to achieve an efficient latch. And to do this, we use the acronym CHINS to help us remember each step of latching baby onto the breast. So step one, we want to hold our baby nice and close. So you can see the picture on the screen, baby's nice and close, feeding from mum. And if I were just to bring baby towards me, okay, we can see that there's no space, there's no free space between baby and mum. And this works regardless of what position you're feeding, whether it's a cross cradle, whether it's a football hold, whether it's a laid back position. Okay, so baby's always nice and close with no free space between baby and mum. Next up, we want to make sure that baby's head is free. So we know that babies have heavy heads that need support. So supporting the weight of their head with your thumb and forefinger like this is absolutely perfect, but ensuring that we're keeping their head free so that they do have a little bit of freedom if they do want to maneuver their head to achieve that perfect latch. So we've got head free like this in kind of a cross cradle position, or if you're kind of relaxing into a cradle position, again, that head is nice and free. Next up, we want to make sure that baby is in line. So we should be able to draw an imaginary line from baby's ear through their shoulder down to their hip. Another way of checking baby's in line is that their nose should be pointing to the breast and their belly button should be facing the same direction. Okay, so really what we want to ensure is that when baby is drinking, that everything is aligned. So it's a little bit like ourselves. If we were drinking a glass of water and we're all aligned, it's very easy. If we're all like twisted drinking a glass of water, it's much more difficult. And if we think of our little babies, because you might be wondering now, how would you even feed baby all twisted? And sometimes we see parents feeding baby like this, so baby's lying on a cushion and their head is kind of twisted into the breast here. And now the ear is not aligned with the shoulder and the hip. And this is going to make it much more difficult for baby to latch onto the breast. So next, I want to talk with you about nose to nipple. So I know that the instinct will probably be there to pop baby's mouth in front of the nipple and see if that works. Okay, but what we know about doing that is that it doesn't typically result in a good latch. When we put the mouth in front of the nipple, what will often happen is, so if you imagine that this is baby's mouth, they will just latch onto the nipple. And when they do this, it can be very sore for mum. It can be very sore and pinchy on the nipple, and often it won't yield much milk and it will result in an inefficient latch. Okay, so instead, what we want to do is ensure that we've got the nose on front of the nipple. When we do that, generally the mouth sits around here at the areola and the chin generally sits here around the skin. Okay, so we've got the nose to nipple and we've got the chin to skin. And then we're going to remember back to our mid and our early and our mid cues. And what our little baby's going to do is open their mouth. So they're going to give us a big wide mouth. So again, let's just pretend this is baby's big wide mouth. And that will generally result in a really efficient latch. And you can see here that the nipple is not being pinched. Baby has a large proportion of the nipple and areola in their mouth. And this is how they're going to yield much more milk. Okay, so this is the efficient latch that we're looking for. And then sustainable for both. So what this means is that this is comfortable for mum and it's also comfortable for baby. So we know if we're ticking all those CHINS boxes, CHIN, that our baby is quite likely to be nice and comfortable. Next, we just want to assess ourselves. Are we feeling comfortable? Are we sitting comfortably feeding our baby? Or are we like all twisted and is our back sore or is our neck uncomfortable? If it is, we need to adjust our position. Okay, and if we can do that with baby latched on, amazing. If we can't, unfortunately, I know it's tough, but we will need to unlatch baby, reposition ourselves so that we're comfortable, and then relatch our baby. While you're here, just to show you how we unlatch baby, we're just going to get our baby finger and just pop it into the corner of baby's mouth, and that will usually allow baby just to slip off the breast. We've just taken the breast away from baby, so be quick, because naturally they will open their mouth really wide looking for that breast again, and we're going to be ready then to latch baby back on. Now I'm going to show you a video where we're going to see lots of babies latching using chins. The video is about 10 minutes long, and then we're going to recap over the video, and I'm going to show you some good positions for breastfeeding. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the video. So what I want to do now is just recap over some of the important points from the video. So first of all, we're going to look at an efficient or a deep latch versus an inefficient or a shallow latch. So if we look at the picture on the screen, you can see baby A and baby B. So baby A and B have wide lips. They've got full cheeks. We can hear no suckling sounds, and this is comfortable for mum. It's not painful. So if we're feeling these 4 feels, usually it's a good suggestion or a good indicator that baby is well latched on, that this is an efficient latch. Secondly, we're going to look at baby C and baby D. Okay, so you can see this baby has narrow lips, and often they have their cheeks sucked in like this. Sometimes we can hear suckling sounds, and it can be a bit of a pinching or a painful feeling for mum. Okay, so if we're noticing these 4 feels, usually it's a sure sign that this is a shallow or an inefficient latch. And in this instance, we're going to unlatch baby, like I showed you earlier on in this video, and then we're going to get ready to relatch baby, aiming for an efficient latch like baby A and baby B. This picture on the screen, you can just see more of the same, okay? What I want to really show you is the picture on the left-hand side, and I want you to look at baby's bottom lip, okay? So sometimes in the first 24 or 48 hours of breastfeeding, when baby is really learning this new skill, they can sometimes, just by accident, draw this bottom lip into their mouth when they're latching on, okay? And you will feel that yourself. You will feel that all doesn't feel right, but I think it's sometimes nice, maybe reassurance, just to ask your partner, your support person, just to check that bottom lip is in fact flanged out for those feeds. Usually after kind of 48 hours, this is something baby probably typically wouldn't do anymore. By 48 hours, you probably have about 20 feeds under your belt, if not more. So baby has probably ironed out like some little kinks that they would have had when they were really just learning in those first few feeds. Now I'm going to chat with you about some breastfeeding positions. So you can see on the screen, we've got a couple of pictures of baby feeding. We have baby feeding in a laid back position, a cradle position, a cross cradle, a football or a rugby hold, and a sideline position. Sometimes I think that all these positions can kind of confuse us because they make it sound like there's a lot for us to learn. Okay, but basically a laid back position, okay, that's probably what you might feed baby in for that first feed. Okay, so you're sitting in a semi-upright position, kind of like this, okay, and you have baby on front of the breast and baby is feeding down over that breast. Okay, so laid back is kind of feeding baby in a semi-upright position, a lovely position for after the birth, whether you have a vaginal birth or a cesarean section. The next thing I want to show you is the football hold position. So I'm just going to reposition baby, okay, and you can see that baby's close. You can see their heads free, they're in line, and their nose is to the nipple. Okay, so in this football hold position, that's a really easy position for latching baby on. What I want you to look at now is, okay, look at my baby, look at me, and see how nothing really changes other than I'm just stretching my arm across to the other breast. However, they give this a totally different name. This is called the cross cradle, okay? So I want you to remember, if you absolutely ace this one, football hold, it's really easy then for you to move over to cross cradle, okay? And again, latching baby on. Now, I want you to look at baby, okay? And I want you to see just how baby doesn't move, but my arms do. This is called the cradle position. Okay, so they're all variations of more or less the same thing. Okay, and again on the other side. So baby's feeding in a football hold, a cross cradle, and a cradle. And then the final position I want to chat with you about is side lying. And you can see the picture on the screen there. If I was to give you one extra nugget, it might just be that that baby could probably be doing with being a little bit closer to mum. But everything else about that image is perfect. And side lying is a lovely position for nighttime feeds and also post-cesarean section, post-vaginal birth. I also want to chat with you about feeding multiples. So if you have 2 babies, ideally it would be amazing for you if you could learn to feed them both at the same time. That's just going to make life easier if they're both feeding at the same time, and then they're both sleeping at the same time. You're just going to have more of an opportunity to maybe catch some sleep or have a bit of downtime while both babies are sleeping, as opposed to feeding one, and then while that one's sleeping, you're feeding your other baby, and then you don't have much time before the baby that fed first is hungry again. So let me give you a couple of tips about tandem feeding. So you can see the picture on the screen. Okay, so we have both twins feeding in a football hold position. Okay, so my advice there would be, I'm just going to pop this little baby down for one moment. My advice there would be start with the baby that takes a little bit longer to latch on first. Okay, so even if both babies are brilliant feeders, one is still going to be quicker at latching on than the other. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hold our baby in chins, and we're going to support this baby and latch this baby onto the breast. Then what we're going to do is have my second baby close by, or I might have somebody with me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop this little baby up, and I'm going to pop this baby onto the breast. This one we know is by nature a bit of an easier baby to latch, so it's not going to be as tricky. I'm not going to need as many hands to get this little guy feeding. Okay, and now I have both my babies feeding together, and I'm just thinking about that lovely little break I'm going to get when these guys go to bed. We don't always have to feed them in the same feed, for example, so we don't have to have them both in a football hold. If you like, you could try, let me just pop this baby down for a moment. You could maybe feed this guy. He could feed in a cradle hold, and this guy could feed in a lovely little rugby hold. So whatever works for you. Okay, so it's about playing around with these feeds. The aim of the game is to always have the baby that's easier to latch on, latching on second. And the second most important thing is, well, of equal importance, that you're comfortable as well. So thanks a million, and hope this video helped. Bye-bye.